It started with a $40 million gift in October 2021, which is now fully allocated across 10 projects. We're working on our 4th documentary film, and we've opened an Earth Center, which is an art space in Montreal, which takes people through our environmental projects and the results through digital art and other means. And so the projects are all based around inspiring change makers, such as this fellow here. We are showing a new narrative, a new trajectory, a new possibility for the environment, that we don't descend into eco-grief. And that's how the projects are selected, and we show that things can be different, that we can create a different future on the environment.
The greatest threat to our planet isn't a lack of awareness. It's a lack of union. As our relationship with Earth evolves, as we become more in tune with how our actions impact others and our surroundings, we believe acts of union, both big and small, when acted on together, have the power to transform our world for good. Because we recognize no one can do it alone. Age of Union, unearthing changemakers.
So a few years ago, there was a lake in the Amazon rainforest. And now this lake was nestled in the Andean cloud forests where they meet the Western Amazon. It's some of the most biodiverse rainforest on the planet. Paddling across this lake in a dugout canoe, we were surrounded by ancient trees, covered in vines, bromeliads, orchids, lichens, and tenanted by scores of animal species, reptiles, amphibians, birds, mammals. This is literally Avatar on Earth. As we fished for piranha in this natural paradise, the man who brought me there told me that it was a place that he had fished at since he was a child. And he said that it was a place that he hoped that he could one day bring his children. And so a year later, we returned with conservationists from around the world to document this untouched ecosystem. But when we returned to the lake, what we found was terrifying. The lake was gone, and everything was burned. I said, "Where are we?" And my friend turned with tears in his eyes and said, "Planet Earth, minus one lake." Most people haven't seen the sandstorms that are in the Amazon rainforest. And in case you missed that, I'll say it again. There is a human-caused desert forming in the headwaters of the Amazon rainforest. Illegal gold miners have cleared over 100,000 acres of primary forest, a scar on the face of this planet that is visible from space. And this isn't the only threat facing this region. Each year, we also watch as the Amazon fires continue to eat away at habitat. In the Madre de Dios, we see it every day. Tentacles of the Trans-Amazon Highway, spreading like a cancer. This is the front lines of the 6th extinction, the conquest of paradise. For over 17 years, I've been learning from the indigenous people of the Madre de Dios, people who are fighting to protect their natural heritage. And together, we've seen the assassination of local conservationists and the devastating loss of habitat. We've learned that the solution to these problems lies in the economic well-being of the people of the region. And it's through the wisdom of our indigenous teachers that we form Jungle Keepers, to tackle these issues head-on and provide action-based solutions to protect ancient forests before it's too late. We've hired loggers and gold miners as conservation rangers. We've worked closely with native communities like Monte Salvador, Puerto Nuevo, y Toro, la gente de Cuenca Las Piedras, whose future depends on the natural wealth of this ecosystem. To date, we've protected almost 50,000 acres of the Amazon rainforest. You know, you can't protect the whole thing from the start, but you have to start somewhere to protect the whole thing. We now have proof of concept. We know this works. But this is just the beginning. You know, saving the environment is a nice idea, but if you don't have a plan for implementation, then it doesn't end up as reality. And in conservation, the victories are temporary, and it's the losses that are final. I'm actually here today on behalf of the millions of wild heartbeats that hang in the balance. Endangered species cannot write proposals, they can't protest, they can't speak out against the forces driving them to oblivion. And so if I've learned anything in the Amazon, it's that the truth between the trees is that all eyes speak the same language. And that if the animals could speak, it would be to remind us that they were here long before we were, busy making the ecosystems that we depend on for life. And it's because of these last intact ecosystems that there are still places in this world where the rivers run clean and the trees are kings, where life is everywhere, and where the meridian between science and spirituality remain beautifully braided. In the last wild places that are left, each blue morning we dip our hands to drink from the river and watch the mist snarl off the canopy at dawn. And when the sunbeams stroke the golden river, beads of sweat form on our foreheads to rejoin the air. Birds float in and out of the smoky breath of the forest until the clouds scrape their black bellies across the treetops. And then comes the rain. We huddle in the downpour, cowering in the swirling genesis of a river creating itself. We are reminded in shocking clarity that the universe is not a place, but an event unfolding around us. That the river and the sky are actually flowing through us. We reach out our fingers along the surface of these truths and, gasping, allow the breath we borrowed to rejoin the wind. Thank you.
I'm Dax Dasilva. I'm the founder of Age of Union Alliance, and we're at COP15, the UN Biodiversity Conference. So Age of Union, we're a conservation alliance, a nonprofit environmental group that really we're supporting change makers around the world that are doing really grassroots, on-the-ground conservation projects. It started last October 2021, with a $40 million gift from me. My background's in tech. I'm the founder of a tech company called Lightspeed. And I just moved roles. I changed roles from being CEO for the last 17 years to now being the chair. So I've decided to dedicate kind of all my time, resources, experience to conservation in this decade of action that's so important. So $40 million gift kicked off Age of Union. And now 1 year later, we've been kind of operating at startup speed at a conservation nonprofit, and we've allocated that across 10 projects around the world.
So basically, you've given 40 million to Age of Union, and then Age of Union is spreading that money to different NGOs, organizations.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's four projects in Canada, 2 in Quebec, 2 in BC. There's a project in the 3 big equatorial rainforests in the Peruvian Amazon, in the Congo, and in Indonesia. There's also 2 Caribbean projects in Haiti and Trinidad. And then, of course, we've got a ship with Sea Shepherd called the MY Age of Union. So lots of different kinds of change makers, lots of different kinds of storytelling we can do. And it's all very, very high impact conservation work that we're funding for the next 3 to 5 years per project. Some of it also includes land conservation, ranger programs, etc. But you can see all of that at ageofunion.com. We're documenting all of it on social and through documentary films. We've actually got 3 done in terms of documentary films, and there's a 4th one coming out of the Congo in the spring.
There's so much I want to ask you. I'm trying to pace my own questions, so I won't ask them all at once.
Right, yeah.
But if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about what Lightspeed does, because I think there's a link somehow with all of this.
Lightspeed, so we work with, we build software, cloud-based software for independent retail businesses and independent hospitality businesses like restaurants. But we serve the more complex end of the SMB market. So those retail businesses that have maybe hundreds of thousands of inventory products in their database and have to manage it maybe potentially across multiple stores and online sales. And then on the hospitality side, it's restaurants that maybe have more complexity with table service, multiple locations, integrations with hotels. And so we're not working with big enterprises. We're still working with independent owner operators. So, I find that they are like the change makers in our communities. They're bringing our cities and communities to life. And so there is that link between what, at least when I work with on-the-ground conservationists, that are making change through that work, I find that they're very entrepreneurial, and so it's that type of conversation, it's that type of drive to make a difference. One's making a difference through business in communities and building community, and one is saving ecosystems, saving local communities that are dependent on nature, and then of course all the species that depend on those vital areas as well.
Yeah, so you made the link for me that I was hoping you would.
Yeah.
Tell me about yourself, how you went from Lightspeed. You're based in Montreal. Lightspeed
Yes.
is based in Montreal as well. And it's become a major business, like a major business. I use it. I have it for my business. My wife has it for hers.
Yeah.
We both use Lightspeed, and it's incredible. It's really an empowering set of tools that you've created through that company. So how did you go from being invested in the world, I don't want to call it, just in the business world, and for-profit business world, to running an organization such as Age of Union?
Right.
And you can even go back to childhood if you want to tell me about.
Sure. Yeah. So I think my journey as an environmental activist started when I was 16. And I joined the protest at Clayoquot Sound. It's the west coast of Vancouver Island. And they were clear-cutting old-growth forest. And I grew up in nature, in BC nature. My parents are African refugees. When they came to Canada, we did a lot of outdoor camping, and I fell in love with the natural beauty of British Columbia. When I learned about the clear-cutting, me and my stepbrother, we drove to Clayoquot Sound, which ended up being saved, and I've returned many, many times. But that drive to Clayoquot Sound was through hours and hours of clear-cut moonscapes, and it never ever, it stuck with me, the destructive capacity and capability of humanity. And so I knew that when I had the resources, when I had the experience, that I would be dedicating my time and my and all of what I could do and all of my resources to conservation. And I feel like it's that time for me is now, that I've stepped away from being full-time CEO at Lightspeed to now being the head of the board, being the chair, and leading Lightspeed from the board perspective. So that's been a transition that happened this February. Age of Union started as a book that came out in 2019. I got down my thoughts around leadership, around culture, around spirituality and nature, and how they're all connected for change makers, for leaders, and that's when that became Age of Union sort of through the pandemic. The pandemic, I released a free version of the book on ebook and on audiobook, and I did some Instagram lives that were with changemakers, and a lot of them actually are, for example, Paul Rosalie that leads our Jungle Keepers project. We just did a UN press conference with him yesterday announcing $3.5 million of our USD of our money for his project. He was one of those first Instagram lives. So we were finding folks that are really inspiring and having them as sort of the launch of our free ebook. And those became our initial Age of Union projects, because I thought, if people could just see some of this work that every ordinary, everyday, passionate people are doing to save the planet, then I think it would spark a fire, ignite that flame within each one of us. That, okay, if we all fought like change makers in our daily actions, if we all supported folks like Paul and all of the other folks that we're supporting, if we could get behind this, then we don't have to have a decade of eco grief. We can have a decade of action for the planet. And a lot of people talk about action, but I want to show it. I want to show action in our documentary films, on our social media. I want to show people in the field that are doing things that give each and every one of us a different perspective on what the narrative is going to be, what the trajectory is going to be for our planet.
So I love that you have, as a filmmaker, I love that you're producing films through Age of Union. Is that really through Age of Union, or
Yeah.
is it a separate production company of sorts?
Nope. For now, we're doing it. We've done our first 4 films through Age of Union.
And I mean, that's
yeah.
great, because it's all about communication. It's not
Sure,
just
it's about awareness.
action.
Yeah.
It's about sharing that action with the
Absolutely. Yeah.
world. And the films, I haven't seen any yet, but they look fantastic. And from just the trailers that I've seen so far, How's it going for you? It hasn't even been a year yet for Age of Union of this new kind of management for yourself. So how, on a personal level, how's that change going?
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, one of the things I left out as I talked about the project is that in this last year, where we've actually quite done all of this, plus we opened an Earth Center, which we'll talk about. It's an art space designed to bring people through our projects and through immersive digital experiences into some of these ecosystems and environments. But one of the other things that I've spent my time doing is actually going to the projects. So I've been to 8 of the 10 projects. So I've been to all the BC and Quebec projects. I've been to the Congo and did film work in a lot of these places and the Amazon. I haven't been yet to Haiti. I haven't yet been to Indonesia, but those are coming up. And so the reason for going to these places is this is a new area for me and for a lot of the people on the team, and we're approaching this with a lot of humility. We don't know what it takes to save an ecosystem or a species. So, and it's important for us to go on the ground and understand what these conservationists are up against and what their challenges are, what their realities are, what the solutions look like, and I think that a proposal is one thing. You get a certain sense of the project, and usually the proposals are very accurate in what they're hoping that we'll support with them, but it doesn't give you the social, economic, political context of what's happening in a place. And these threatened ecosystems, these threatened species, are part of a bigger context that has to be understood to really come up with those innovative solutions that are going to make the big difference. So I've deepened my understanding. I've gotten my hands dirty and been to some dangerous places this past year, but I'm actually loving it. I actually really enjoy being with these folks, and I found that being a conservationist, you experience a lot of losses, and and that's, you can see places that you've been trying to protect be clear cut or burned. You can see species that lose orphaned wildcats and the Amazon tapir. You can see all sorts of orphan animals that their parents have been shot because of poaching, and it's just devastating. And so to go to these places, uplift these conservationists with the news that you're going to help, you're going to commit, and then we get energy from that too. It's like they have a new renewed sense of hope for what they're going to be able to accomplish, and we actually believe that together we're going to be able to do much greater things, and we're going to be able to share it with an audience that's going to feel that things can be different, because they can see things different in these places with these projects. And if we could have not 10 projects but hundreds of projects like this, or thousands of projects, or more than that, and that's the goal of Age of Union over the next decade, is to involve other people, other tech leaders, other business people, everyday people, build technology that can bring folks together, show them reporting, show them accountability, transparency, in these really, really worthwhile grassroots projects that are actually hard to fund, that we can scale this and that we can do something really important. And actually, this can be a decade where we really had a turnaround.
Well, I can really see the link with Lightspeed, with what you've been able to do with Lightspeed, and how...
So it's another scaling project that exactly. I'm getting back into technology all over again. We're building a platform already. There's actually some amazing Lightspeeders that were a part of my original team that have joined this team. And so that's actually quite a fun journey. It's a small team, but we're having a blast.
So let's talk about COP15 to close off. And so why are you here? This is your first COP, I assume?
Yeah, this is my first...
so how does it work to even join the COP? Because they don't let anybody in here.
Yeah, so, we applied for accreditation for Age of Union. We're a brand new organization, so, just 1 year old. So we were very fortunate to get accredited. And not only that, I'm speaking at the closing panel today at this Business Biodiversity Forum. Yesterday I was able to do a press conference, a UN press conference, which is for us something very special, with our partner Jungle Keepers, to announce $3.5 million USD for a 5-year plan for them. And then I spoke at a parallel event on Sunday, the World Biodiversity Forum Summit, that was just not far from the main COP. And so for us to be able to speak at 3 different different events here and meet so many incredible people and connect with people, especially after doing the talks. And also the panelists have been amazing to connect with. This actually is really, this being the biodiversity conference, it's really our wheelhouse. It's really kind of at the heart of what we're trying to do. All of our projects are about biodiversity. All of them are about species and ecosystems. So and of course I'm a business person that's making that's transition from business into protecting biodiversity. So for the business forum here, hopefully I've been able to share some insights of what that journey's been like and what motivates me and how what we're doing with Age of Union, how we think it matters.
Yeah, and must make you feel as well part of a much greater community.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many incredible projects happening here. To hear about what other people care about and how they're approaching some of the same challenges or challenges in different places that I didn't even hear about, it's all really inspiring. So it's amazing that this was moved to Montreal. It's a fantastic opportunity for a lot of the conservationists here, a lot of our partners that are based here in Quebec, and also even just in nearby cities. You know, I've had friends come from New York and Toronto and places nearby. So the COP was moved from China because of some of the COVID restrictions. So it's been something that's actually been really fortuitous for us, and of course meeting a lot of amazing delegates from China as well that transferred some of their forums over here to Montreal.
Yeah, you must be learning a ton about this new world that you've joined.
Absolutely, yeah. It is actually an amazing thing to end our first year at Age of Union to speak at a UN conference and also to give a press conference here. It's actually a dream that I didn't realize would come so early in our journey, but we are moving at light speed at Age of Union with great inspiration of that startup DNA that's a part of our NGO, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think the planet needs urgency, and it does need a little bit of that startup juice.
Dax, congratulations on your amazing career, and thank you so much for this work that you've embarked upon for biodiversity. You're bringing tears to my eyes, frankly. I'm so grateful for you, man.
Thanks, Jason.